Lily Evans clutched her favorite ice cream cone in one hand as she skipped along the cobblestone path of Riverside Park, occasionally glancing back to make sure her mother was still in sight. At 8 years old, she possessed the curious spirit that defined childhood, boundless, fearless, and sometimes reckless. Her mother, Sarah, sat on a bench nearby, momentarily distracted by a phone call from work. The spring afternoon buzzed with activity as families enjoyed the perfect weather, children's laughter floating on the breeze. That's when Lily spotted him. Even at her young age, she knew he was important. The way people cleared a path as he walked, how his security guards flanked his sides, the expensive suit that seemed out of place in the casual park setting. Alexander Hayes, the billionaire CEO whose face frequently appeared on television and in magazines, was strolling through the same park as her. But Lily's interest wasn't driven by his wealth or status. No, her tiny heart raced for an entirely different reason. She had seen him before, not on TV, but in the worn photo albums that sat on the highest shelf in their cramped apartment. Alexander Hayes stood smiling in pictures with her mother from years ago, his arm draped casually around Sarah's shoulders, both looking impossibly young and carefree. Lily had discovered the albums last winter while searching for Christmas decorations, and when she asked her mother about the handsome man in the photos, Sarah had quickly shut the album and changed the subject. Without a second thought, Lily slipped away from her mother's line of sight. The ice cream, now forgotten and dripping down her hand, was tossed into a nearby trash can as she navigated through the crowd, keeping her eyes fixed on Alexander's tall figure. Her heart pounded in her chest, equal parts excitement and nervousness flooding her small frame. "Lily," she heard her mother's distant call, but curiosity pushed her forward. Alexander Hayes stopped to take a call, his security detail creating a perimeter around him near the park's central fountain. Lily waited for her moment, then ducked between two distracted guards and walked straight up to the billionaire. Standing at barely 4 feet tall, she tugged gently at his designer jacket. Alexander looked down, annoyance flashing briefly across his face, before softening at the sight of the small girl with untamed curly hair and bright green eyes that seemed strangely familiar. "Hi, sir," Lily said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Why do you appear in my family's photo albums?" The simple question struck Alexander like a physical blow. The phone slipped from his hand, clattering against the pavement. His security team tensed, but he waved them back, suddenly captivated by the child before him. "What did you say?" he asked, kneeling down to her level, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're in the pictures with my mom, the old ones. She gets sad when I ask about them." Lily's eyes were honest and questioning. "Are you friends?" Before Alexander could respond, Sarah Evans burst through the small crowd that had gathered, her face ashen with fear. "Lily! Oh my God, Lily!" She reached for her daughter, then froze when her eyes met Alexander's. The color drained from her face as recognition dawned. "Sarah." Alexander breathed her name like a long-forgotten prayer. "Alex." It wasn't a question, but a statement, her voice carrying years of unspoken emotions. The bustling park seemed to fade away as the three stood in their own bubble of tension and confusion. Security guards hovered anxiously, unsure of the situation unfolding. "Mummy, you know him?" Lily looked between the adults, sensing the heavy atmosphere. Sarah pulled Lily protectively to her side. "We need to go, honey." "But Mom..." "Now, Lily." Her voice left no room for argument. Alexander stood, composing himself. "Sarah, please, after all this time..." "This isn't the place," she cut him off, her voice trembling slightly. "We have nothing to discuss." Lily watched with growing confusion as her mother's grip on her hand tightened. "But Mom, he's in our pictures. Why won't you talk to him?" A flicker of something, pain, regret, or perhaps both, crossed Sarah's face. "Lily, please." Alexander reached into his pocket and withdrew a business card, offering it to Sarah. "At least take this. My personal number is on the back." Sarah hesitated, then reluctantly accepted the card, tucking it into her pocket without looking at it. "Goodbye, Alex." As Sarah pulled Lily away, the little girl looked back over her shoulder at the billionaire, who stood motionless, watching them leave. The security team closed ranks around him once more, but Lily could see the change in his posture. Something had broken open inside him. That night, as Sarah tucked Lily into bed in their modest 2-bedroom apartment on the city's east side, the questions began. "Mom, why did you run away from that man today? The one from our pictures? Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, her shoulders heavy with unspoken burdens. It's complicated, sweetie. Sometimes grown-ups have histories that are difficult to explain. Were you friends? He looked sad when we left. Sarah brushed a curl from Lily's forehead, her touch gentle. We were more than friends once, a very long time ago. Like boyfriend and girlfriend? Lily's eyes widened with childish delight. A small, sad smile touched Sarah's lips. Something like that. But that was another life. Is he rich? He had people protecting him like in the movies. He is now, he wasn't always. Sarah's voice grew distant, lost in memories. When I knew him, he was just Alex. Brilliant, ambitious, but struggling like the rest of us. Lily's young mind tried to reconcile the imposing figure from the park with the laughing young man in their photo albums. Do you still like him? Sarah's hand stilled. It doesn't matter anymore, Lily. Our worlds are too different now. But enough questions, sweetie. It's late and you have school tomorrow. Sarah kissed Lily's forehead and turned out the light. But later that night, when Lily was supposed to be asleep, she crept into the hallway and spotted her mother sitting at the kitchen table, the forbidden photo albums open before her. In the dim light, Sarah traced her fingers over a photograph, tears silently streaming down her face. And clutched in her other hand was Alexander's business card. From her hiding place, Lily made a decision. If her mother wouldn't reconnect with the man from their past, perhaps it was up to her to bridge that gap. After all, she reasoned with the simple logic of childhood, if Alexander Hayes was important enough to be in their family photos and make her mother cry, then he was important enough to be in their lives. Little did she know that her innocent question in the park had already set in motion events that would unravel secrets buried for nearly a decade, secrets that would test the boundaries of forgiveness, reveal painful truths, and potentially heal wounds that both Sarah and Alexander had carried silently for far too long. Alexander Hayes stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of his penthouse office, watching the city lights flicker to life as dusk settled over the skyline. 3 days had passed since his encounter with Sarah and Lily in the park, and he hadn't been able to focus on anything else since. The quarterly reports sat unread on his desk, meetings had been delegated to his executive team, and sleep had become an elusive luxury. "Sir, the board is getting concerned about your sudden absence." His assistant, Eleanor, stood in the doorway with a tablet clutched to her chest. "Should I continue to reschedule your appointments?" Alexander didn't turn from the window. "Tell them I'm dealing with a personal matter. Everything is under control." "Of course." Eleanor hesitated before adding, "The investigation team sent over their preliminary report. It's in your secure inbox." At this, he finally turned. "Thank you, Eleanor. That will be all for tonight." After she left, Alexander unlocked his computer and opened the report. After meeting Lily in the park, he had commissioned a discreet investigation into Sarah Evans' life over the past 8 years. The report wasn't invasive, just public records and basic information, but what he found made his chest tighten with a mixture of guilt and admiration. Sarah had put herself through nursing school while raising Lily alone. She worked night shifts at Metro General Hospital, lived modestly, and by all accounts was a devoted mother. Their apartment was in a working-class neighborhood, safe but far from luxurious. No romantic partners appeared in the picture, at least none serious enough to share her address. What the report couldn't tell him was why she had disappeared from his life without a trace all those years ago, just when his first company was beginning to take off. They had been college sweethearts, inseparable for 3 years. They had planned a future together, or so he thought. Then one day, she was simply gone. No explanation, no goodbye, just an empty apartment and a returned engagement ring. Alexander's phone buzzed with an incoming call from his younger brother, James. "You're still at the office, aren't you?" James asked without preamble. "Where else would I be?" "I don't know, maybe sleeping, eating, having some semblance of a normal human existence." James's tone was light, but laced with genuine concern. Alexander sighed. "I saw Sarah 3 days ago." The line went silent for a moment. "Sarah Evans? You're Sarah?" "She has a daughter," Alexander said quietly. 8 years old. The implication hung in the air between them. 8 years. The timeline aligned perfectly with Sarah's disappearance. "Alex," James started cautiously, "are you thinking what I think you're thinking?" "I don't know what to think, but the girl, Lily, she has my mother's eyes, James. That same unique shade of green. That doesn't necessarily mean... She found photos of me in their family albums and recognized me in the park. She asked me why I was in her family's pictures. Alexander's voice cracked slightly. What am I supposed to do with that? James exhaled slowly. Have you tried calling Sarah? She hasn't used the number I gave her. I'm not surprised. She practically ran away from me in the park. Maybe there's a reason. There'd better be one hell of a reason for keeping my daughter from me for 8 years, Alexander snapped, then immediately regretted his tone. I'm sorry. I need to